Have you ever had sexual relations with any species considered non-human?
No, can't think of anything. Funny you should say that.
Brother, I am pinned here!
Disclaimer, I have little to no knowledge on Warhammer franchise or its lore outside of Russian Badger videos and memes, okay? Please be gentle. With that being said, let's get into the video. Warhammer is coming out with a brand new Space Marine game real soon, and I thought it would be interesting to see if a Space Marine could beat Fallout 4. Mod by Matthew Hore on Nexus Mods. I'll be trying to stick to weapons that Space Marines would use, such as swords and hammers, along with sweet bolters that come with the mod. Now let's get to the fun part. It all started with me trying to make the picture of masculinity. Jawline, scars, sculpted ass. The whole works. I made a lore-accurate Space Marine because apparently they have 2 hearts, 3 lungs, and are 8 fucking feet tall for some reason. I played with my adopted son and talked with my emotional support wife before getting an urgent broadcast by the Emperor declaring that the nukes were about to hit Earth. In a mad rush, we made it to the waiting vault. My wife's mind got blown, and as we descended into the depths, I swore vengeance on those who would seek to destroy us. But first I needed to stuff my finely toned ass into a very tight jumpsuit. I got frozen, watched my wife take a bullet, and got frozen again before getting thawed and laying waste to my new vaultmates. I grabbed the Pip-Boy and emerged into a complete shithole. I didn't hesitate to begin my long sprint to the bunker where my old armor was being held, and a perk of having 20 endurance let me sprint nearly endlessly, only stopping to punch out a mosquito. I got a glimpse of something very big, but without my armor, I left, planning to come back later. My buns of steel got a nice slap by a grizzly bear before I ended up in the glowing sea, running and running until I found a nondescript bunker door in a mostly destroyed building. Upon entering, I find the building overrun with strange-looking automata with laser rifles. Using all 20 of my intelligence, I tried a daring plan. Shit. Trying again, I snuck my way to the lower levels until I was right above my armor and took my chance, entering my armor and acquired my bolters before tearing my way through the automata with ease. With my armor finally recovered, I am now able to cleanse the world of all the abominations that now call it home. I left the bunker and returned to my home base back at Sanctuary. I waited until morning to come around before wandering off into the direction of Concord, meeting Dogmeat on the way. He'll be joining me for a while. Do I need a companion? By the Emperor, no, but Dogmeat is fun to have around. I made it to Concord, cleaning up the raiders with little trouble before I spoke with Preston and took the Pain Train perk because I thought it would be funny to run into people at full speed. I made sure the remaining raiders knew what was coming for them and made my way through them like a hot knife through butter. That's when an abomination decided to pay me a visit from the depths of hell. I let loose with my bolter, chewing through its health, but when I saw that Dogmeat might be in trouble, I rushed in and immediately got pinned to the floor. I got up and proceeded to gun bash the beast whenever it got near. After a minute of us slapping each other around, I finished off the abomination with some well-placed shots from my bolter. I took a page out of Zombieland's book, making sure it was completely dead before returning to Preston with news of my success. I returned to base camp with Preston in tow, allowing them to settle here, even though I would probably never speak to them again. I started my way to Diamond City, where I threatened some idiots who thought it would be a good idea to aim a pipe pistol at a 2-ton walking piece of metal. It was going well until some unexpected orcs crossed by in the background, and I couldn't help but take them out with little ease. I bought a sword from a woman in a diner, and stumbled across a town filled with abominations. I made my way through them and stumbled upon a group defending themselves from the monsters. I couldn't help but stop and help them out, and learned that they were a part of the Brotherhood of Steel. As a fellow brother in armor, I agreed to help them with their mission to find a deep-range transmitter in a rundown factory. Me and Dance made our way to the factory, and at first it seemed like a slow, easy procedure until a group of automata, looking just like those who were guarding my armor, appeared behind a door. We made short work of them as we made our way lower into the factory, and I couldn't help but press a big red button. I accidentally cooked Dance like a can of beans. We found the transmitter on the body of an automata, and we exited the factory, completing our mission. Dance offered me a place in the Brotherhood of Steel, and I agreed to join, wanting to become a part of a brotherhood once again. again. We parted ways so I could continue my search for my adopted son. However, since I was running low on fusion cores, I returned to home base and paid a visit to a junkyard where I'm able to find 3 extra fusion cores. Pretty nice. I made my way to Diamond City and thought I'd help out some city guards with some orcs. However, my explosive rounds had different plans, harming a guard and making the rest hostile to me. I was forced to kill them, but after a couple days of sleep, everything went back to normal. Like I didn't just obliterate a man down the street. Getting back to it, I met a feisty reporter, fell in love a little bit, and my murder boner was getting hard to ignore, and I made my way to where I first saw the sighting of the large abomination. I took it down like the beast it was, but my bloodlust wasn't quenched, and I descended upon a group of monsters like an angel of death, toying with the final one before putting it out of its misery. I made my way to Bunker Hill where I shoot a lobster in a barrel and get a quest to find an old man's hat. The trip saw me coming into contact with some more abominations, and when I made it to the location, I was happy to find that something was waiting for me. I tested out my new super sledge, pretending that the beast's head was a very large and ugly nail that needed to be hammered. I found the old man's hat and was able to kill another monstrosity on my way out, which I would say is a bonus. I returned the hat and somehow found myself in a library and a massive battle between good automatas and a band of orcs. I soaked my hammer in orc blood as I massacred my way through the dull brutes, leading to a final offensive on the stairs. I left a pile of orcs in my wake and a big smile on my face, hungry for my next fight. I got my wish soon after I discovered a rundown church, teaching them why you don't run around with nuclear bombs strapped to your arms. I cleared out another gang of orcs before making my way to Good Neighbor and dealt with another dumbass at the door. I think I fell in love for a second time.
I'm a woman, baby.
I needed to take my mind off of what just happened and decided to take it out on an ogre bathing nearby. I approached ready for a fight, unaware I'd be staring at a green schlong the entire time, and I tried to end the fight as quick as possible. I was able to take the ogre out and I really needed to bleach my eyeballs with something. I made my way down a nearby subway station and massacred my way through the unfortunate triggermen that guarded the station floor, introducing them to the end of my hammer that had gotten a bit too close to an ogre warpike.
If you know what I'm talking about.
I found a metal man being held captive in an old vault, and he said that he was a detective that could help me find my son, that I definitely didn't forget about. I showed Skinny Malone the business end of my bolter, and met Nick Valentine back at his Diamond City Detective Agency. I sat down with him, and through his resources, he deduced that only one man could be behind the kidnapping, Kellogg. Me and Nick tried to gain access to Kellogg's apartment, and even though I could probably walk through the door like an armored big bird, I intimidated the mayor for an apartment key instead. We raided Kellogg's secret closet for clues to his whereabouts. I ended up using dog meat to follow the scent, but before I left, I grabbed another hammer with big possibilities before finally making it to Kellogg's location with little hassle. The automatas under Kellogg's command were little challenge to me, especially when my sword does 50% extra damage against robots. I finally made my way to Kellogg and brought my hammer down so hard that I made his dead body materialize out of nowhere. I stole his shit and downloaded his search history for later research, before exiting the building and witnessed the third love of my life flying overhead. My armor had suffered a lot of damage over time, and I returned to base camp to repair any pieces. Now, I may or may not have put in a lot of my perk points into armor and blacksmith in order to make my gear even stronger than before. I also may or may not have added rusty knuckles to my armor, allowing me to cause bleed damage with my punches, letting me get even closer to the action than before. You know what that means. I'm gonna shove my fist so far up your ass, I'm gonna work you like a fucking Muppet. After uppercutting the abomination, I sent it to hell and made my way to reconnect with my brother in armor, Paladin Dance. Me and Dance went on a vertebra ride to the floating fortress, where I listened to Elder Maxon perform a speech and met all the Brotherhood heads. I was soon given my first mission to take out a nearby orc gang. I was supposed to use a vertebra to rain hell upon them from above. I had other plans. I stormed over there with my bolters, ripping through the massive orc soldiers, and when my bolters seemed to be doing too much damage to a nearby orc, I put away my weapons and went on the attack with my fists, using its green balls as my personal punching bags, and giving it the Space Marine special. It finally relented under the sheer power of my punches, falling over dead. I continued my way through the mission, having to use my bolters to take out an over-enthusiastic orc with a minigun. I ate another orc's rocket before I am able to complete the mission, and reported my success to Elder Maxon. My hunger for combat wasn't quite satiated yet, and I went out in search for another fight, stumbling across a cult of fire-worshipping heretics. I proceeded to turn all of them into a fine red paste, until a strange whistling sound came through the air, and a small nuclear explosion erupted close by. I tried to make out where the nuke had come from, when another erupted right next to me, nearly killing me. I decided to give them my full attention, wiping out everything around the area, including an automata and an idiot who thought firing a rocket at close range was a good idea. I returned to the fire-worshipping heretics and pretended to be Mario for a second before taking out the head honcho with a very nice-looking fire sword. I witnessed a crazy heretic zipping around the arena like a spider monkey on cocaine, and I was so surprised that I didn't even try to kill them. I let them fight it out with Jake, and they sadly lost. I collected my prize and tested it out on a heretic outside. I returned Jake to his family and made my way to a nearby location that was said to be hiding a terrible beast. I attacked this savage abomination with my new fire sword, but once I noticed that it wasn't doing quite enough damage, I switched to my bolter to help soften him up a little bit, before switching to my hammer and laid into the beast with everything I had. At the very end, I put the hammer away and ended things with a powerful uppercut to the abomination's jaw, killing it outright. I found a pristine egg and I left the museum, stumbling across another abomination not too far away. This one was not as tough as the last one. I was able to take it out with nothing but my incredible punching power. Knowing that there were even more abominations nearby, I climbed to the top of a nearby tower and turned on a siren, which attracted two different beasts at once. I pumped myself full of drugs and leaped off the tower, descending upon the alpha with my fist clenched and my cock hard for the promise of a fight. The fight was a long, hard-fought battle between two juggernauts with little pests flying around us. I got many good hits in as I lowered its health more and more until finally I was able to take out the beast and was immediately challenged by one of the pests from earlier. Anyway, the second abomination was not as hard as the first, slamming my fist into its hide, but at some point, I hit the beast so hard, I launched him into space, and watched as it plummeted back to Earth, landing on a very unfortunate area. Not too far away from where the beast smashed its balls is a nest and a passive abomination nearby. I returned the pristine egg I found earlier to the nest. However, the last thing this world needed were more of these abominations running around. So I stole the egg right back, pissing off the beast, and I introduced it to my very large metallic knuckles. After my blood started to cool, I returned to base camp to repair my armor and even created a trophy wall for the things I had killed up till now. Due to lack of resources, I was unable to complete the project, and instead continued my earlier quest to find my son. I returned to Nick with weak old brains in my pocket. He sent me to a nearby doctor, and I got to try out some VR. This is ass. I exited the VR chair and was told by a doctor that there was a scientist in the glowing sea who may be able to help me with my problems. I made my way to the glowing sea, making sure to pay a quick visit. I attacked the beast with my rusty knuckles and even launched it into the sky. However, unlike others, this abomination saved itself by getting me in an animation that saved it from the deadly fall. That gained a sliver of my respect, but that didn't save it from the beatdown that followed. I took out the beast and ventured into the glowing sea, stumbled across two different abominations on my way, as well as a pair of scorpions. However, the highlight of my adventure was a 4-on-1 brawl between scorpions and an abomination. The fight was rough for the beast, as it had 4 different enemies attacking them all at once, and the outcome wasn't surprising as the abominations succumbed to the scorpions, and they turned their attention to me. I took them out with little difficulty and continued on my way. I was attacked by more scorpions who had a bad case of the jitters. I dealt with Virgil's guard dog and talked with the orc scientist who sends me off to kill an advanced automata known as a courser and pull out its brain. On my way to where the courser was located, I paid a quick visit to the bear who slapped my perfect ass earlier. I also gave an abomination a dose of very explosive medicine.
Right up Main Street.
I finally ended up in the same location as the courser, with my armor heavily damaged and close to breaking. I made it my mission to never have my armor break, and continued my way through the building, taking out the rocket gunner, because he was the biggest threat to the health of my armor. The Courser was nothing compared to my Knuckles, and I easily pulled his brain chip out of his head, and immediately returned to base camp to repair my armor and replenish my bolter ammo. I had absolutely no idea what kind of perks I was going to pick, and they are just a jumble of different damage and crafting perks, but I started to focus points on Iron Fist to increase my punches even more. After recouping my strength, I made a quick visit to a rundown church and fired blind into the darkness. I took out Gloria, she was the biggest threat with her minigun, but after her, the other characters had absolutely nothing that could stand up against me, and I was able to decode the chip easily. I returned to Virgil and acquired the plans to the signal interceptor. I brought my plans back to the Brotherhood, who helped me out in creating the interceptor, in a project that required a lot of returning to base camp because I kept forgetting an important piece or running low on basic materials. With the last wire replaced, I powered up the interceptor, allowing me to enter the Institute. However, before I embarked on my mission, I gave my armor a much needed coat of paint. I chose this one because it seems like the default colors. Leave a comment of which chapter you believe I should be in. I spoke with Elder Maxon before embarking, and he gave me a primary objective of finding a scientist named Dr. Lee. I stepped onto the platform, and with a flash of light, I was teleported into the Institute. I downloaded their secrets and met with the head of the Institute, who turned out to be my son. Anyway, I listened to him speak, pretending to go along with his very vague plans, until I was given full, complete access to the Institute. I talked with the division heads until I found Dr. Lee and talked her into leaving her current position and return to the Brotherhood, so that she could make a real difference in the world. She agreed, and with nothing else keeping me there, I teleported out of the Institute and reported my success to Elder Maxon. There was a very specific reason for the Brotherhood wanting Dr. Lee back, and that is because they are planning to rebuild a giant automata named Liberty Prime. Ingrid had been working on him for years, but Dr. Lee was needed to complete the project. However, she didn't agree to working on Liberty Prime, and I had to talk her into helping. It was a whole big thing. The production of Liberty Prime was quick, with Dr. Lee and myself helping the Brotherhood, creating important components and being sent on an important mission to recover Liberty Prime's ammunition. I met up with Scribe Halen and plunged once again into the glowing sea to find a storage site for hundreds of portable nuclear bombs. I fought my way through scorpion after scorpion and played whack-a-mole with my hammer. I made it to the site and made my way through the monsters lurking below and dealt with the heretic protecting the nuclear bombs, who had his own automata to help him. I put a tracker on the bombs and waited for the elevator, getting a pleasant surprise. My hammer's about to glow green. I returned to the Brotherhood and restarted Liberty Prime's auxiliary power, but it wasn't quite enough to start him completely. However, before I could go get him a new battery, Elder Maxon informed me that Paladin Dance is actually an automata. He entrusted me with destroying Dance, but I did feel a bit bad for almost turning him into a briquette. And on a whim, I decided to let Dance live. Dance is such a hardcore member of the Brotherhood that I had to talk him out of killing himself when I said that I wouldn't kill him. After I was able to talk him down, we were confronted by a very angry Elder Maxon, and I used my immense charm to talk him down to allow Dance to live. Maxon allowed Dance to live, but in exchange, he kicked him out of the Brotherhood and said that he was dead to them now. I returned to the airport and was sent on a mission to take out what was remaining of the railroad to recover a fortune-telling automata. I'm just now hearing how weird that sounds. The Brotherhood soldiers were already fighting the railroad heretics. I helped my brothers and sisters get to the bottom of the catacombs and blew our way into the entrance chamber, where I left a massive pile of bodies in my wake. I reprogrammed Pam, completing the mission, but the fight was not nearly enough, and I made my way to a random raider location who may or may not have a secret in the basement. Me and the abomination brawled with each other until I hit the beast so hard it fell through the earth into hell itself. Angry that I couldn't collect the head of the last abomination, I went to a location which was rumored to have multiple of them in one spot. I killed the first two with a combination of my fists and melee weapons since they were alone, but when I stumbled upon a legendary, it ganged up on me with another abomination to really give me a hard time. They even did some black magic on me or something and teleported me away from the fight. Pissed off and bloodthirsty, I made my way back up the hill only to find an ogre chilling in a warehouse. I gave him a quick smack on the ass with my hammer.
I'm in danger!
Our fight was long and tedious because he wouldn't stop fucking blocking like a bitch. But sooner or later, I was able to sneak through his guard and take him out. The commotion of us fighting also attracted the abominations from before, and I dealt with the first one quickly, leaving only me and the legendary. With it as my only opponent, the fight was already decided, and with one final punch, I satiated my lust for violence and returned to base camp to upgrade my armor one last time. As I have been saying throughout the video, I have been putting points into my crafting perks, and this is where it all comes together. Upgrading every one of my pieces in some way, shape, or form, I gave my legs a speed boost at the cost of extra AP, but the extra cost was pitiful next to how much endurance I possessed. I gave my torso a +2 strength increase to make my punches and melee attacks do even more damage than before. And for my helmet, I added a targeting system that will highlight every living thing within my sight so that I know I am not leaving any survivors in my fights. While I was upgrading, I had to go to the shop and buy supplies, and may or may not have used my bolter ammo as currency by mistake. I didn't even realize my mistake until my next fight, where I had no ammo for one of my bolters. I returned to the Brotherhood in my upgraded suit feeling awesome, and hopped onto a vertibird for a mission that permanently made me an enemy of the Institute. Fuck yeah! Me and Ingrid flew our way over to the mass fusion to acquire Liberty Prime's battery, and were swarmed by automatas on the way. But they barely scratched my paint job as I made my way through them like wet tissue paper. I pulled out the battery that we came for, and had to fight off a large automata, but with a few rounds from my bolter, left it a smoldering mess on the floor. The two other security measures, I chose to fight with my hammer, bashing them over the head like they were meat needing to be tenderized. My hammer was so powerful that it canceled out one of their fuck-off head lasers, forcing the automata to block because it knew it couldn't stand up to my hammer. I took out the remaining threats and left the mass fusion building this much closer to the end of the game. However, before I returned to the Brotherhood, I made my way to base camp in order to increase my hammer to the highest upgrade it could get to. Now, you guys may or may not be wondering why I'm not using the Ripper, because it's like a chainsword, right? Well, here's a reason. Big fucking hammer. I also crafted as much bolter ammo as I could make to replenish my missing supply. With everything ready, I put the battery back into Liberty Prime, and then waited till morning before fully turning him on. Pause. Liberty Prime emerged from his restraints and lumbered his way to the Institute hideout, destroying any measly defense that got in his way. There was a roadblock, and I watched as he waded through the water before emerging on the other side, ready to kill. Like a star quarterback, he chucked nukes into enemies that I couldn't even see, and when an ogre tried to confront him, he threw it around like a useless rag doll. Me and the Brotherhood cleared out any automatas in the immediate vicinity, allowing Liberty Prime to blow a hole in the Earth's crust and straight to the heart of the Institute, leaving the rest up to us. I'm not going to pretend that the Institute wasn't anything other than a piece of cake to me and the Brotherhood. Between my bolters and melee weapons and Elder Maxon's Gatling laser, they didn't stand a chance. I did, however, put my weapons away and brawled with robotic gorillas, which was on my bucket list. Fuck yeah. I spoke with Sean before ordering the Institute's evacuation and tore my way through the remaining automatas guarding the reactor room. I planted the bomb on the reactor, got teleported to the main lobby where I allowed my fake automata adopted son to escape with me. God, that was a mouthful. Before I walked into the teleporter and was transported to the top of the mass fusion building. I pressed the big red button and watched as the Institute was disintegrated in a ball of nuclear fire, proving yes, you can obviously beat Fallout 4 as a space marine. I would like to thank everyone for tuning into another one of my videos, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope this comes out in time for the new Space Marine game. I also want to play that on my channel. It looks awesome. I wanted once again to apologize for not being super knowledgeable on Warhammer lore, and I hope you guys had fun regardless. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and please leave your suggestions for other challenge videos you would like to see in the future. With that being said, I love you guys. See ya.